This is The Baseline, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA.
Welcome, everybody. You're tuned to The Baseline. Cal Lee, Warren Shaw, discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. And we said from the first two games that the Cleveland Cavaliers did not show up for Game 3, that we would probably be talking more about a sweep than there any kind of inclination or hope that the Cavaliers could give themselves an opportunity to win a championship for the first time in its illustrious organizational franchise history. But as again we said, it takes inspiration and it takes the effort of a king to lead his minions into the field of battle. And that's exactly what the Cleveland Cavaliers did tonight, executing their game plan about as good as it could possibly be done, get a little bit at home cooking, and blasting the Golden State Warriors in Game 3, 120-90. Here to break it down in our post-game wrap-up. You know I got to do it with my right-hand man, 50 grand NBA aficionado, dime man contributor, right up on the illest websites, www.shawsports.net. Big Kahuna and PNC, my brother from another mother, Mr. Warren Shaw, ripping out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Holla back at me, Mr. Shaw. What were your impressions of the Cavaliers' resiliency to refuse to go down 0-3 in this finals?
Well, salute to all the fans listening to NBA Baseline, and thank you for tuning in with us for another wrap-up edition of the NBA Finals. And yeah, man, what I'm getting out of this really is home is where the wins are. You know, they say home is where the heart is, but in this series, it's definitely where the wins are. The Cleveland Cavaliers coming back now in Game 3 and really just thwarting thwarting everything Golden State was able to do offensively and defensively. And, you know, as we record the show, Steve Kerr just saying that the Warriors just got their butts kicked. And it's kind of a throwaway game, but we'll see if this is really what that is, and if there's a little bit more to it.
Well, I appreciate you blessing me. Maybe that was really for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and maybe blessing the NBA faithful that we actually have given ourselves an opportunity to even be a part of this NBA Finals. And we'll talk a little bit about the lopsidedness that has taken place in these first three games, and where do we measure what this is all supposed to mean? Does this actually mean that these teams are competitively balanced and that it should go 7 games? Or are we just looking at this as saying that this was an aberration and that the better team just did not bother to show up to play? And while it was an inspired performance by the Cleveland Cavaliers, can they keep this up, as we say, because they have to win 4 out of the next 5 games? Now, 1 game is down. They've got 3 more to go. But the question is, can they maintain this? To put themselves in a position to ultimately try and win a championship. And so we'll look at all of those things. We'll break down the numbers, and we'll also start talking about something that I think is very interesting. It is in relation to the current MVP, Steph Curry, because maybe that person, you know, receiving all of the trophies, awards, and accolades. I don't know if he's basically still not 100% healthy. I'm sure that's what everyone is making the excuse for. I think there's probably a little bit more to what's going on, and I think was exhibited really over the course of the first 3 games of this series. So we'll kind of delve into that. We always appreciate everyone showing their love and their commitment to listening, downloading the Baseline NBA podcast. You know how to get at my man Shaw at Shaw Sports NBA, or get at me at GameFace Lee. But we always encourage you to get the show's Twitter handle at NBA Baseline. Available on all the major platforms, available on Microsoft TuneIn, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Player FM, also available on Google Music. And my man Shaw has his thing going on Roku, so be sure to check out Shaw Sports. My man Shaw's blowing up on the Roku channel, man. I mean, we might have to have his own install by the way that this thing is going down. But it's all for the Baseline NBA podcast, where we discuss the hot button topics of the NBA. So we appreciate you guys tuning in and getting our thoughts and take of what has happened now in this Game 3 of the NBA Finals, where the Cleveland Cavaliers destroyed the Golden State Warriors 120-90. Shaw, when I looked at the first half of this basketball game, as much as I was impressed about what the Cleveland Cavaliers were doing, and I was impressed because clearly you can tell that they recognize that they could not come into this game and have a lackluster performance. So I knew that this was going to be a game when you have the best player. Well, let me preface this by saying there's a difference between having the best player in basketball and having the most dominant player in basketball. And at times, LeBron James can be touted as the best player in basketball, but what they needed was the most dominant player in basketball. And even in that first half, LeBron James did not look like the most dominant player on the court. It actually looked like Kyrie Irving, maybe from an offensive standpoint, but defensively, he actually stepped up to the task as well too. And I think that fed off of when your lead guys are putting forth the effort that people are usually antagonizing you for, it says a lot about what kind of night you could possibly have on both ends of the court.
Yeah, I think what we've seen tonight in Game 3 was you can lay to rest the LeBron James needs to be super selfish and score 50 points or whatever the case may be. He did lead the team in shots, and by one over Kyrie. He took 26 shots, was 14 to 26. So, shooting over 50%. Kyrie took 25 shots and was 12 to 25. But LeBron's game is to be all inclusive, and that's all inclusive on both ends of the floor. If his shot's not falling, he's still going to be getting other guys involved. He's still going to rebound, and then he's always going to try to play defense as well. Listen, this is a night where the offense was clicking. I think if there's any one caveat you can say to this, I think it was midway through the third quarter, and it was pretty much all of their starters had all the points. No bench points even to that point, even though it was a blowout. So even still in that, they seem to be a little bit top heavy. But again, LeBron having to do, the Kobe Bryant thing, if you will, where you just got to put everything on his shoulders. His game is to play an all-around game, and he got help tonight from Kyrie Irving and J.R. Smith.
Well, so let me preface this by saying that I agree with you, but I agree with you to some extent. This wasn't about him having to score to 55, but it was about him really kind of imposing his will on the basketball court. And I think that that's the point that you were alluding to, is that it doesn't have to be a points-dominated performance by LeBron James. But I think at times, though, I think it's going to have to happen at some point during the course of this series, that LeBron James is going to have to find it within himself that he cannot wait for his guys to come around. He has to be able to instinctively know when they have it and when they don't have it. I think it came easy because the Cleveland Cavaliers collectively just played better defense in the first half to even give themselves a chance. And I still think that in moments in that first half where the Golden State Warriors were kind of hanging around, that LeBron James still deferred, where I think he still could have been uber aggressive, so to speak, because he's still really the most unstoppable person on the basketball court when he chooses and is decisive. In this particular case, what was more decisive to me was Kyrie Irving's willingness to go ahead and shoot the basketball, not dribble, not hang around, not to figure out things, wait for the second pick and roll. He was very decisive with the way he wanted to attack the basketball. And he basically had the Warriors backcourt on their heels numerous times, which then facilitated opportunities for guys like J.R. Smith and guys like Richard Jefferson and even LeBron James to some degree, where he could be able to penetrate and there'll be less of an opportunity where the Warriors are able to collapse. I think that this collectively was an effort of being more decisive if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers from an offensive perspective to attack the Warriors rather than just settling on the idea, like you said before in the first two podcasts that we've covered regarding the finals, that it's dribble, and then figure out what to do after.
Yeah, there was dedicated movement and dedication, I should say, not just movement, but dedication to the pick and roll specifically with, as I think it was Mark Jackson even said, the 1-4 pick and roll with LeBron and Kyrie. And that was able to create matchups that were favorable for the Cleveland Cavaliers, where it ended up being LeBron or whether it ended up being Kyrie. And then it's just one of those nights. Kyrie was hitting shots. I mean, a lot of the same shots he took throughout the series, they didn't fall in the same manner, and he got on a roll early and was able to kind of continue that throughout the game. And the other thing that which I've said on the podcast too, is that you want to see Kyrie being a bit of a distributor. And again, we know he's not going to be a 10-12 assist guy, but he got 8 assists tonight and only 2 turnovers. And really was impactful, when he was out on the floor. And like you said, just being very, very decisive with the basketball offensively. And again, he has been trying defensively. We know that's never going to be his game, but he has been trying. But I think the other key is obviously J.R. Smith, 7 of 13 from the floor, 5 threes as well. And so much went right for the Cleveland Cavaliers starting lineup, which I guess is something else we need to talk about too, because Kevin Love did not play in this. Now you hear all those conversations and all that talk now. Oh, are they better off without him? Listen, they got a great effort on the glass tonight, 52 rebounds. I think 52 rebounds. So I think Golden State only had 32 themselves. And all those things contributed to the way the Cavaliers were able to crush the Warriors tonight.
You tune to the Baseline. Kyrie, Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. This is our post-game wrap-up, Game 3 of the NBA Finals. The Golden State Warriors fall to the Cleveland Cavaliers 120-90 at the Quicken Loans Arena. When I look at this situation, Shaw, I mean, it could be looked at it from twofold. Definitely a much more assertive effort by the front court for the Cleveland Cavaliers, albeit I feel like a lot of this was not so much the fact that because Kevin Love obviously was not in this game, but I really just think that there is a writing on the wall here, and names are being thrown up against it. Okay, at the end, adjustments will be made, and as much as I want to kind of hang my hat on what the Cleveland Cavaliers were able to do, I don't think much has really changed from the sense that this was an improved effort by the Cavaliers, and this was an abysmal effort by the Golden State Warriors. And we talked about this before we jumped on air, man. This is one of the things I just don't like about the Warriors. It's what I don't like about this finals is that we're seeing way too many of the extreme. We see this unstoppable juggernaut force in the Golden State Warriors where if they execute what they do, they play inspire basketball, damn near nobody can beat them. And then we have these moments where, they come sluggish out of the gate. They seem to be scratching their heads instead of being, completely committed to what they need to be doing on the court. And at times, it's almost fool's gold because we can sit here and we can dig deep and delve into the numbers. We could talk about the dominating performance by Tristan Thompson, but are we really going to be banking on the fact that Tristan Thompson is going to get away with doing what he did? You know what I mean? I mean, we would have talked about Timothy Mozgov getting some playing time and Richard Jefferson coming in there and throwing up numbers. How much of a factor will these guys really be throughout the course of this series, Shaw, when you realistically look at it, because we're saying what they did tonight is an indication of what moving forward?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, you look at a guy like RJ, and people are saying, oh, he was, arguably the third best player on the floor for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I don't think so. I think JR and Tristan obviously had more impact, but RJ was playing defense and doing his thing. And, even a guy like Shumpert coming out there and he gave his 18 minutes of playing defense. The Cleveland Cavaliers role players, for the most part, did exactly what we'd expect them to do. How much have we been talking about role players and bench guys? When they get at home, all of a sudden it's a different thing. And you saw a concerted effort for Cleveland to get those guys to contribute in it on both sides. And for me, I can't say I was too surprised, really from Tristan's standpoint. But even if you talk about a guy like RJ, being inserted to the starting lineup as a veteran, I think he kind of knew this was coming after playing so many minutes in the last game, and then the uncertainty of Kevin Love. Kudos to him for just staying ready. But I think this is something that we're going to see, I think, from both teams as their home court dictates it, that their role players are going to continue to play well.
Shaw, when we break down how the Warriors really performed tonight, right? We could attribute part, obviously, that the Cavaliers played better basketball. We can attribute part of it saying the Warriors just didn't have their shot tonight. But there was something else that I kind of noticed that really stands out to me. And I think it's now becoming something that we're going to have a discussion about. Because this is not about asking Steph Curry to step up and be the MVP. It's interesting. I was just reading an article that was written on ESPN where Steph Curry was being asked, will it bother you if, you possibly win a championship and you might not be the MVP of the series? Do you aspire to be a MVP, finals MVP? He's like, man, I don't care who gets the MVP as long as it's a Warrior, because it means that we've won. And that's really great. That's really great to say, really great to put in the papers, and he's such a team guy. But this is the NBA Finals, man. And the finals really are dictated by people who play with a level of greatness. And I really feel like we're going to be talking a lot about the Golden State Warriors as a team collectively, because they still are the deeper team between the two. This game is not a reflection of what the Warriors are capable of throwing at you through the course of a 48-minute game. But I really do think that my concern lies in what kind of temperament is Steph Curry coming in each and every single game. Now, we can make the excuses that he's still not 100%, but I think we're beyond that. Tonight, what I saw from this game 3, Steph Curry just straight up just doesn't have it, man. And he has not had it for the first 3 games. I said this last year, that the one thing I didn't like about Steph Curry is at times he waits too long to allow, for him to go and take the game when he's waiting for the game to come to him, because I think it just comes too easy for him. And there needs to be a sense of urgency for Steph Curry to really show and impose his will. We've seen flashes of it from people that we've questioned. Can they be great when it matters most? And tonight, Kyrie Irving stepped up and made us not have to question LeBron having to do that, right? Because we said that if LeBron isn't going to do it, are we going to rely on Kyrie or Kevin Love to do it? So I think that the question, in fairness, should be asked of the same thing for the current MVP of the NBA. Where is Steph Curry in this? Because tonight, his mannerisms, his demeanor, I just feel like he's going through the motions, and whether he's just lying through his teeth to Steve Kerr, making it sound like he's right, he's good, he's all right, he's not showing it on the court, which is about as bad a time as you can have, especially when the Warriors go through these lulls. They need a spark from someone, and they almost didn't get it. Like, they got it from Klay Thompson, but they almost didn't really get it from the rest of the team, and this could have been a far worse blowout had it not been for the inspired play again from their bench.
Yeah, I mean, Curry seems to be coasting one way or the other. And again, we don't want to talk about the injury. He's out there. As everyone says, if you're out there, hey, then you should have no excuses. But there does seem to be something that's a little off. Again, still don't want to discredit what Cleveland is doing. They're playing him very, very well and crowding him and not giving him the space that he's used to even being able to create, especially when he's involved in pick and roll. But yeah, he just doesn't seem to have the same swag that we're used to seeing throughout the season. I think his comments are indicative of the team play and all those things. And those are things you'd want to hear someone say to some degree. But right now, he hasn't been able to go out there and take the bull by the horns, if you will, and really take over a game yet. You just kind of feel like, okay, that has to be coming, but we haven't seen it. And again, he still ended up with 19 points. Shot just under 50% at 6 of 13. Klay had a worse game at 4 of 13 and 1 of 7 from 3. Both of those guys really need to find their shot and get things going. And now it does become that a matter of adjustments. So now, okay, your normal plays that you're used to doing if you're Golden State and Steve Kerr, these seem to be scouted, and they seem to be, really being able to lock some of your perimeter shooters, your premier shooters down. How are you going to get these guys now involved and get them some better shots? Kerr said after the game, hey, Curry just had a bad game, but at some point now you kind of have to game plan now to figure out a way to get him some easy looks and get some better shots going so that he can be the contributor that he's supposed to be as an MVP.
You're tuned to The Baseline. Kylie, Warren Shaw discussing the hot button topics of the NBA. Our NBA wrap-up Game 3 is the Golden State Warriors lose to the Cleveland Cavaliers with an impressive effort, 120-90. Be sure to check out my man Shaw on Twitter at Shaw Sports NBA. All right, Shaw. So as we look at what's happened and what's occurred with this game specifically, if you are Tyronn Lue and you are the Cleveland Cavaliers, what do you take from this? How do you move this forward to Friday's matchup, Game 4, in order to try and tie this series up to a piece?
Well, it's funny you say that because we're here breaking down the game, quote unquote, so to speak. But the coaches themselves are saying at this point there's really not a whole lot that they're doing. He said it was Ty Lue said, hey, we're at home. It was about physicality and it was about aggression. And it was about desperation too. It's not something that he added, but I think that's part of the equation as well. You're still down in this series. And if you go down 3-1, well, you're going back to Golden State and with the potential of being closed out on their home floor where their crowd, which is going to be raucous and ready to rock. So I think for the Cleveland Cavaliers, it's a matter of coming with that same effort, that same tenacity, especially on the glass, and making sure that everybody does get involved. Do Kyrie and LeBron, combine for 62 points again? I mean, I don't know. They probably can come close to that. Does Kevin Love come back? And, what decision does Lue make, in reference to that? Because a lot of discussion about if Love comes back, does he now come off the bench? Obviously, you're still going to play him, but has RJ now really earned that role as a starter to kind of get things kicked off for the Cavaliers? Those are the tougher decisions I think Lue has to make. But really, at this point, it's about keeping that same effort because, like I keep telling you, dog, really what happened is their defense has been okay for the most part, their offense is where they didn't get anything. Tonight they got the effort on both ends.
All right, and if you're the Golden State Warriors, Shaw, what does it take in order to wipe off the stench of this particular game? And I mean, let's be realistic, Shaw. Do you foresee them taking any one of these games on the road? Can they take this game despite what has been reflected upon them, despite what they showed tonight? Is this an aberration, or is this Warriors team capable of being able to pull one off of the road to really supplant themselves, give themselves a true opportunity to finish things before we start percolating the idea that the Cavs could actually have an opportunity to win the finals?
Well, I mean, it would be a little, disingenuous of me and inconsistent if I didn't think the Warriors can win on the road, especially having predicted them to win the NBA championship. They obviously need to figure out some things. Conversely, they need to get on the glass and try to get back to some of the things that they doing game 1 and game 2, getting that concerted effort from their bench. But again, as we just mentioned a couple minutes ago, Curry and Thompson have got to find a way to get off. And even if you don't get both of them, at least get one of them going. So that, because I think which we've seen with them throughout these playoffs too, is like, okay, if one has it going and the other one doesn't, that other person is still going to chime in at some point and hit a big shot. So you just need kind of one of them to kind of carry the load. I mean, let's not, stray far from the tree here. Draymond Green didn't play well. He was only 2 of 8 from the floor as well. He did some of the other things, getting 7 rebounds, 7 assists too. But they need all of those guys to contribute on a regular basis, and Kerr's got to have to figure that out.
And let me ask you one real quick question, Shaw, before we, kind of wrap things up here. Steve Kerr, I noticed that at certain points, he'd ask Steph Curry, he's like, yo, are you all right? Are you good? And obviously Steph Curry shook his head. And of course he's going to tell him, yeah, of course I'm good. I'm great. Put me back out there, coach, whatever. But do you think that Steve Kerr should have the same quick trigger like he would with Andrew Bogut or like he would with Harrison Barnes? Should he have that with Steph Curry, or does he really rely on the fact that Steph Curry will figure this out? Because I'll be honest with you, Shaw, I'm not trying to make much of this, okay? And I don't want people to get the false perception that I'm trying to put this out there as if I'm trying to stir up some controversy. But I'm keeping it 100 about the fact that if we're talking about this Warriors being a great basketball team and they're going to position themselves to win this championship, and I think that that's what's going to matter if we're going to talk about historics, in a historical context about what this team is doing. If Steve Kerr is not getting it from Steph Curry, why not have Sean Livingston out there? Because it really looks like Sean Livingston can do some serious damage in this series. He can seriously do some damage against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I know they like to throw him out there in spurts, but I really feel like until the Cavaliers have proven that they can figure out how to really neutralize him, he is a big advantage for that team that I think Kerr can abuse the heck out of, and Tyronn Lue can still not figure out a legitimate way to stop him.
Well, I think that's an interesting assessment, because I don't know that he would ever not trust Curry to be out there or not play him, whether he's injured or not injured. If he's saying he's good to go, then he's going to get the bulk of the minutes. But I do think there's a possibility where you could see all of them out there. Livingston, Curry, and even Klay Thompson could be out there at certain points of the game. And, especially if they're trying to go, not necessarily super small, but if they just want to create some ball movement and then, be able to score from the mid range with Livingston's ability to shoot that shot and even post up some. I think those are options Kerr may have at his disposal if he's interested in looking at it. Have looked at the analytical numbers to see how much those 3 guys have played together on the floor this year. But it might be something that Kerr can consider. I just don't see him not giving Curry minutes if Curry's even remotely capable of getting out there.
All right, Shaw. So bottom line here, what are your predictions for Game 4?
Game 4, I'd say that you're going to see the Golden State Warriors come back. I think what we will see, though, is a more competitive game. It will be interesting to see what happens with Love and the Cavaliers if he is indeed cleared to come out. But I say Golden State wins Game 4 in a close competitive matchup that the Cavaliers lose in a heartbreak fashion.
All right, well, there you have it. The Golden State Warriors fall to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who've played a much-inspired basketball game this time around. Hopefully they will maintain that, and we can have ourselves an interesting NBA Finals moving forward. Right now, the Warriors are still ahead 2-1, but who knows what might happen by the end of this weekend. For the Baseline, Kylie, Warren Shaw, we appreciate you guys checking us out here in the Baseline NBA podcast. Game 3 post-game wrap-up. Be sure to check us out, the Baseline NBA podcast, weekly podcast. We discuss the hot button topics of the NBA. If you'd like to hear what we have to say, please, by all means, download and discuss. We also encourage you to drop by, drop us a rating, drop us a comment. We always love to hear from you and yours, and those ratings will definitely boost us up as we continue to ascend in the rankings as one of your top podcasts discussing things in the association. For the Baseline, Cal Lee, Warren Shaw, we appreciate you guys, and we'll catch up with you next time.